Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Tulis.
Bowtie must be having a good day today. His bow tie passed inspection yesterday. I'm wearing the same shirt I wore at church yesterday, and the same tie and the same jacket. My Navy jacket that is, I want to let you know, is frayed on the cuffs. It's got frayed on the cuffs. Jeanette, my wife, says it's something that Freight Check will take care of because I wear my jackets to the ground, she says. And so I'm okay today. And because my bow tie is in good coordination, you know that the analysis proceeding from my lips will be, as my Adam's apple bobs up and down, true, accurate, solid, and maybe colorful, but not too colorful, right? Not too colorful, because if it were too colorful, I might get complaints, and you, my listener, would tell another person. You might not tell another person to listen to my show, and double my listenership. Right? If you now listen, if you tell my listener, tell a friend about my show, that doubles my output. So think how important you are. Think how influential you are with just the good word for David Tulis. David Tulis, the host of the David Tulis Show here at Nooga Radio, where we cover local economy and the free market in Chattanooga and beyond. The slogan is really a kind of a farmer slogan. It's really a slogan that people, like those people who run Bueller's, right, or who ran Bueller's Market downtown, a slogan that they love, and that is love your neighbor and buy local. I have a genuine human interest, and even as a Christian, a sense of local economy is a way, a practice, a habit of thought that doesn't come naturally in our day. You know, I'm a product of my time, just like you are, and so I have a prejudice built in by media and long being a customer of gigantic corporations, a prejudice against the local, against the particular and peculiar, and rather a favor for the homogenized, the plastic-cladded national brand with its glitzy advertising, its winsome lyrics, and its earnest, its earnest music on its commercials that make me think that health is just a sandwich away if I heed the advertisement. But I think the idea of local economy is one that we can seek to apply in many areas. As we mentioned, breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is highly local economy, and being vaccine free is highly local economy. Not only because it saves lives, but because it saves lives in your family. Right? It saves damage in your family because you have selfishly disregarded the collective. At this point, and you're saying, what's the best thing for my family, for my children? Do I need to clog their veins and color their flesh with 40 or 50 shots, including the very often lethal MMR vaccine that sparked the Vaxxed movie and the whole Vaxxed movement? I'm looking at a story by a man who's connected with the Beacon Center of Nashville. It comes out of FEE, the Foundation for Economic Education, and it has a very winsome headline: "How Capitalism Makes Us Less Wasteful." And Art Carden, who's an associate professor at Samford, points out that we have in modern capitalism, in the modern national economy, we have a huge amount of wasted goods. Right? We're very rich. We have very high standards of living, so we think. And look, we have so much stuff we have to rent now a second rental unit, or we have to say, well, I'm going to move up from the smallest size to the middle size unit to put all my extra stuff, all the cameras I don't use anymore, the hunting gear, the canoe, all kinds of tools which I bought with a high idea about making repairs and didn't make those, and there the tools are, and they're just clogging my work area in the garage, and they're gonna go to shit. I just finally decided I don't need those that much, and if I need them, I'll make a special trip out there to get them. Well, we have cars in our parking lot at home that aren't being used, and we have empty seats in airlines. Right? We have cars that carry one person at a time, and so he says the street my family and I live on in Birmingham is clogged with cars parked along the curbs. So are the surrounding streets. We're fortunate enough to have a driveway into which we can cram both of ours, but even so, we have a chunk of what would otherwise be green space taken up by bricks in automobile. Yet I own a car because public transportation in Birmingham isn't great, he says, and the transaction costs of organizing my own rides are just too high. So the sharing economy, which we have all around us and is developing. Now, Chattanooga is retrograde and isolationist on an important part of the sharing economy, but it hasn't tried to regulate away, erect a Chinese wall around other parts of the internet, the internet and sharing economy. And that these are think if you have a car that you're not using, you can let other people use it for the week. Okay, use it for the day. It just is a matter of organization. It's a matter of someone saying, okay, I'm going to organize that all the cars downtown who are part of our network have a duplicate key made, or 2 duplicate keys, and we rent that car. We let that car out. Let someone who's visiting Chattanooga know where the car is, get a key from us by a courier or a drop-off location, and then take that car for the day while that party is here in Chattanooga. Let's say on business, pleasure, right? One day for business, one day with wife and 2 children for pleasure, including the aquarium, some driving around, maybe going up to the Scopes Museum in Dayton and to the military park on Lookout Mountain. So they're your car while you're in the office, right? You got a long one at the office today, got a big deadline, and you're you're at the office, and so you're going to let somebody else use your car. Of course, you can't have your pistol in your car. You can't have cash under the seat and things like that, but you can nonetheless have that car being used. That's the sharing economy, and that's coming. And so environmentalists and others see a benefit to this. Also, profit-seeking capitalists, and this is a great point he's making. He mentioned Zipcar, which you can rent a car anywhere from an hour to 7 days at a time. And in the University of Alabama, there's Enterprise Car Share, which lets students rent cars as needed instead of having the hassle of dealing with a car, paying for the parking permit, and then shuffling that car around to get the best space. The sharing economy doesn't mean we're going to have a lot of new stuff. Rather, he says, we're going to have a lot less stuff that's used more efficiently. And there you go. That's the sharing economy, whether it's your house, your car, maybe you have computer power that you're not using. Again, of course, that's the idea of networks. We're going to see things in the wrong place move to the right place, and new capacity, he says, be created by tapping previously unused resources like the empty seats in your car, the empty seat next to the driver of a tractor trailer going from city to city, or the empty ovens and unused store space all over the world. So think about that. If you have these networks as they're developed by local people, right? We need to have people in Chattanooga develop some of these. And there is work in this direction already. I'm thinking of Squid, maybe not the best example, but Squid, which has office management platforms all in one place, all on one screen. You can have your whole business kind of controlled there. These are things that are in that direction, right? In the right direction, the sharing economy direction. And so the future really is local economy. In many ways is the hyper local economy, I would suggest. Now I want to my time is getting away on that just a footnote there. And the main thing I want to mention is there's a story at Chattanooga.com. I hope you'll look at today, Chattanooga.com, and it's a story about the 8 or 9 attorneys seeking to be assigned or have their names go to Governor Haslam for naming for the replacement of Judge Thomas Neil Thomas at Circuit Court. He's retiring after many years at that bench. It's an equity jurisdiction, and I looked at some of the. I wish I had done a comprehensive review, but my time sometimes limited. Sometimes I can't do everything I would like to do. But there were some things I just wanted to point out among the candidates. The ones I saw, probably the strongest presentation is from Ron Powers. He's as I say again, applying to be circuit judge, and there's a kind of you might say gravitas and heft in his well-developed narrative. He has more, you might say, more type than the other candidates at which I looked, but he talks is a very insightful review of his work in civil litigation as a solo practitioner. He has 45% commercial business and general litigation, construction-related claims and disputes, 10%, and 10% on torts, claims, and defense, 10% on employment-related claims, 10% real estate, 10% estate planning, and he's applying for this judgeship. He says that he's done 16 circuit trials, and he has done 150 bench trials. I think that's as when he was a city judge. I'm not remembering now exactly where. A lot of his early practice was defending insurers. Early in his practice, personal injury against personal injury, wrongful death, and property damage claims. Also against fire loss claims. In other words, when you're making the claim, he's the attorney in the insurance company trying not to pay. That's effectively what that practice is. He mentions the human drama in court. He says domestic experience would prove to be invaluable in handling the divorce, child custody, and other domestic disputes that come through circuit court. He's done domestic cases essential to a good foundation for understanding and dealing with the dynamics, parties, emotions, and legal issues involved in domestic matters. And he mentions this is of special interest. He mentions a ruling in his favor, and let's see, what was the ruling? It was a ruling in which, the paying of a fine, a traffic fine, cannot be construed in a civil case as an admission of guilt. So in other words, if you're in a traffic case, you're also charged in the case, and then you're later sued. In the criminal side of that matter, a paying of a fine is not an admission of guilt, and that was a Ron Powers case, as he explains it in his petition. He was also involved in a very large project in Colorado that went for 2 years. He was defending a carpet company that was involved in a multi-million-dollar project providing carpets, and then the company went under, and so there was a long haggling over who gets paid what. Yeah, back to the case about the traffic ticket. Williams v. Brown, 1993. The mere payment of a traffic citation could be introduced in a later civil suit involving the same accident to support the claim of negligence on the part of the driver. Not only did the Supreme Court decide the issue of first impression, but the court adopted the position advocated by me on behalf of my client. That's Ron Powers here. The court held that the mere payment of a traffic citation cannot be introduced as evidence in a later civil suit to show that the driver was negligent, and further held that such payment alone does not constitute an admission of guilt by the party paying a traffic citation. It was a decision, Ron Powers says, that was on the top 10 list of important decisions for many weeks after it was reported. And again, this is an attorney who's run for judgeship before. I think he ran for a city court judge a couple years ago, and he talks about the rule of law. There's one problem, though, in the way this is presented. He says he has a passion for the rule of law and serving the people. That's good. And the desire to use my skills to assist parties with the resolution of their disputes. He says circuit court should be a place where litigants feel their disputes have been heard fairly, and the judge listened and carefully considered the facts and the issues delivered a just outcome to the best of the judge's legal ability. He says he promises to listen if he's named judge, mediate with discernment, and apply the law fully and equally to ensure, and he spells ensure correctly, E-N-S-U-R-E. Many people spell that wrong. To ensure that justice is served. My overriding goal will be to enforce the applicable law after carefully considering the facts. So you have in the same couple sentences the claim of justice and the claim of applying the law. I would really say that, I know these are just words, I know this is just an application, but I would really want that justice be paramount in the heart and eye of the jurist, not the rule of law, right? Because rule of law is what's protecting Hillary Clinton, right? We know what rule of law means. Rule of law means that we can abuse people in the law, and we can shield people from proper prosecution by the rule of law. Right? We have some wall we've erected around some protected party, one of the insiders, and they're not going to be prosecuted. And yet a common person with a revoked driver's license or suspended driver's license is. So in the question for Judge Powers is this, for Attorney Powers seeking to be judge: is the rule of law superior to justice, or is justice superior to the rule of law? I would say that if you're the judge, you're the arbiter, as he points out. But he says, I will absolutely uphold the law in all situations, even if I disagree with it. Well, now that's understandable. But what about the case where the petitioner challenges the law on its face? What if the petitioner says this is an unconstitutional law, and you really go ahead, rule against me because I plan to appeal it? That's in that case what Judge Powers, the would-be Judge Powers, has a new question. Is he going to stick with the law as written, or is he going to review the justness of the statute when it's challenged directly on its face? Right, a facial challenge to the statute. Will that receive a fair hearing from Judge Powers if he's so set on the rule of law? You see the question I have? You see the question? Yeah, it's 800-8949, 800-8949. Although the judge may not agree with the law, he says, the judge's obligation is to interpret, uphold, apply, and implement the law equally as it is written. Okay, well, that's true. A trial judge must not be an activist with regard to changes in the law. That is the job of the legislature and in some instances, the appellate court. As a judge in circuit court, my paramount concern, Ron Powers says, will be to uphold and apply consistently and equally the federal and state laws and regulations and local ordinances. Again, the question is, what about justice? Where does justice fit? Is justice superior to the rule of law, or is the rule of law superior to justice? Now, that's a question that could be magnified upon, and a different man with a different disposition and a different experience might have something to say about that. And I wonder. Catherine White is also applying for the job, and she, of the ones I looked at, she has a long list of prior litigation, including 3 divorces: personal divorce, White v. White, 1994, irreconcilable differences, no children; personal divorce, White v. O'Kelly, 2001, irreconcilable differences, 1 child; personal divorce, White v. Robertson, Chancery Court, July 28, 2016, irreconcilable differences, 1 child. She says, please note, to the extent that I have unfortunately had the experience of 3 unsuccessful marriages, this by no means reflects who I am as an individual. Catherine White. Colin, this is David Tulis, and you're live on the air. What's on your mind?
Hey, David, it's Greg.
Hey.
I read a book a while back that was called Best Evidence. It was a book talking about the JFK assassination, but in the foreword, the one thing that the gentleman talked about was that justice has no place in American law. That what they're looking for is who has the best evidence. There's evidence for something and evidence against something, and guilt, innocence, justice has no place in American law. It depends on who has the best evidence. And even if you're innocent, if they have better evidence, even if it's circumstantial, showing that you did something, you will be found guilty.
Well, I understand that, because every matter before court is a conflict, and there are 2 sides. There's the accuser, often the state. The state is the biggest accuser of all, and then there's the defense if it's a criminal matter. And so I think you're probably right, Greg. Thanks for the call. And that's Greg making a point that justice has not a place in the law, but theoretically it should. And before God, it has to, right? God requires justice. God creates, courts come from God himself, right? There is a final court where the individual soul is judged for its sins and judged whether or not it deserves eternal punishment or not. And so God requires courts to be just. Justice has to be the first thing. And we've become so secular as a country, so materialistic in our thinking, so evolutionary, that the question of justice is not often in view. But I think a good judge will have that in view. He will always have equity in view. Equity, of course, is summarized in the Ten Commandments. It's summarized in the doctrine of lex talionis, which is eye for eye, tooth for tooth, stripe for stripe, wound for wound, burn for burn. That's repeated in the Old Testament as the standard for equity. In other words, if there's a wrong, the remedy cannot be any worse, right? If there's an evil, the punishment cannot be worse than the evil itself. You can't execute a man for jaywalking, right? You can't tase to death a high school senior in her car because she ran a stoplight and then made you give chase. That can't. There's a disproportion there that's unjust. Well, this is David Tulis. Also, there's other candidates, Jennifer Peck and Alex Michael, who has a background from Haiti. This is David Tulis.